babies and eat them because we reproduce, and we need those babies to reproduce later. They're more valuable than fruit on trees because we can grow fruit on trees anytime, and it causes us no pain and no discomfort, and it just sits in our backyard and grows. A baby is quite different. It takes a great deal of effort to make one, and get it into this world. So that, I think that's just, I see what your point was, but you probably should have gone with something else besides that. You suggested, I can't talk today, I don't know why. You suggested that nature, that the nature of observable science as, I'm trying to pinpoint exactly what you said. The nature of observable science always seemed to move in disorder instead of order. Now, what I would argue is that once understood, the sense of disorder evaporates, and the complex system of mechanisms reveals itself to be orderly. But I'll get right back to your question. I just wanted to bring that point up real quick, which is the logically defensible position. Logically, the second one, that it came into existence all by itself for no reason. To me, now, in order for something to be logically defensible, you have to have some proof, and right now, the burden of proof has always been on my side, and I don't think that's very fair, probably because I'm on my side, but it seems to me that scientifically there is at least a little bit, I mean my personal opinion is there's a lot, but a little bit more proof that that your side should be under fire here. I say it's more logically defensible because the evidence I've seen supports the fact that it's more logically defensible. This is one of the questions I didn't like because I thought it was kind of pointless. You're trying to create a chicken or egg scenario. But the fact of the matter is the first sentence is not entirely true, and I think we both know it. Basically what you're trying to do is say, well, natural selection requires DNA, and it has to operate, and it has to reproduce, and how can it maintain all of those things? Which came first? And I think we both know that it came at the same time. The DNA you're talking about at the time when it would have come along wasn't that complex. I like the question. The answer is pretty easy. Basically, if we got a full set of prime numbers, let's say instead of prime numbers, something a little more complicated. Let's say we got a Fibonacci sequence, or an entire sequence of pi just started coming in and didn't stop, and it was everything up, and even prime numbers. Sure, we'll go there, even though that would be nearly undecipherable because we can only go so far with prime numbers on our understanding thus far. Let's just say that happened out of the blue. Yes, it would probably be considered as extraterrestrial life once investigated. Why the same isn't true of our complex DNA is because we have shown a method in which it did not just come out of the blue. Now we get to the point where Smelly and Unshaven has to have a cigarette. Because questions 9 and 10, I thought you did a decent job. I've seen better, I'm not going to lie. And I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm just a guy who's trying to do the best he can. And I'm a person who has this discussion a lot. And I have yet to see a single theist arguing with me without making it personal. Question 9 and 10 I'm going to give you a short response to because, quite frankly, I think they deserve very little of my attention. Number 9. What if God is real, as described in the Bible, and you have to stand before Him and give an account for your life? Do you have a list of reasons already why you never accepted Him? Under close scrutiny, Will those reasons portray the fact that you don't want to believe and will stick with anything that sounds good rather than look too closely? Well, quite frankly, man, screw you. You said in the beginning of this thing that you didn't want to get don't attack the person. Well, I will do that if you don't attack me. But when you immediately jump the gun and accuse me of blindly sticking to something, your people... And yeah, I'm going to get personal right back at you because that's what you did to me. You're accusing me of blindly sticking to something. Your people are stuck to a creed that's been outdated for years, that has done nothing but harm this planet over the last at least 50 years. I mean, seriously. Mass murders, wars, genocides in the name of religion. I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about the whole damn thing. And you're going to accuse me of being closed-minded. You went too far, mate. You really did. Any respect I had for your line of questioning, in fact, I don't even want to see a response to this. It's pointless. But to answer your question so that you can undoubtedly, because judging by the nature of this question, I'm sure you do this, so that you can sit back with your, standard American family and not understand those crazy atheists and talk about how it's so sad that they're going to hell and feel so much pity for them. I'll answer your question. If your God's real, as you said, it's described in the Bible, if that God is real and I have to stand before him, I will not account for my actions. I won't have to. If he's real and he's as you described him to be, I'll never see him. The Christian God cannot exist in a relative universe, and therefore cannot be personal. I could get into explaining that, but I'm kind of pissed at you. Basically, suffice it to say that the nature of God's existence demands an unrelative universe without law in order to contain he, she, it. And if that God is bound to that universe, it cannot be personal. So what I will say is, if I have to stand before your God, let's say all that theoretical physics is out the window. If I do actually have to stand before your God, I won't account for him, or I won't account to him. I will request that he account to me. Because if all of this truly is his plan, he is a sick deity. Number 10. If you answered all my objections to my satisfaction, would I submit my life to Jesus or recognize God as my creator? If you answered all my questions, I'd worship you as my creator. I'd submit to you. Theoretically, though, since you've clearly strayed off the path of logic, if you did answer all my questions, and there was some way that you could empirically prove that there was a God on high and that somehow he birthed a son who was nailed to a couple sticks to save us from essentially the damnation that he set up for us. If all that is true, and you can prove it, I think I would, I might recognize God as, in fact I would, I'll say that, I would recognize God as my creator. I would not submit. Because as I already said in question 9, I have such a huge problem. It's harder for me to accept that there is a God who knows what's going on, and who can control what's going on but does not stop it. That's really hard for me. A, because there's no proof, and B, because if it philosophically, it completely perturbs me, because that would then have to mean that either he's your God is completely contradictory and cruel and delights in a certain level of suffering, not only in this life, but he created, I mean, there is a place that he, if not created, allows to exist where souls burn forever, and he lets that go on. That seems immoral. Yeah, my answer to 10, I would probably recognize God as my creator if you could prove it empirically. But if he did have a control on what was going on,